There is a field outside Svatova on the seam between Kharkiv and Luhansk, where a 62-ton Swedish tank sat completely still in the autumn of 2023 and should have died. It had rolled over a mine, almost certainly a Russian TM-62, a shallow steel dish holding 20-odd pounds of explosive that has immobilized more Ukrainian armor than any missile ever fired. The tank threw a track. It couldn't move. The crew did the only sensible thing and bailed out into the tree line. And then the drones came. This is the Russian kill chain in miniature, the pattern repeated thousands of times along this front. A mine stops the tank. The crew runs. Hours later, sometimes days, explosives-laden FPV drones arrive to finish the job, diving one after another onto a machine that can no longer shoot back or drive away. Russian state media was already celebrating. 2 Swedish Stridsvagn 122s, they announced, damaged near Svatova and about to be destroyed completely. Except the tank didn't burn. Ukrainian engineers crept back out, hooked it up, and towed the wreck to the rear. A week or so later, it was clean enough that President Zelensky walked up and inspected it in person. A tank that Russian television had buried, standing in a yard, dented, scorched across the turret roof, and entirely recoverable. Here's the strange part, the part worth sitting with. That turret roof, the flat surface on top where a diving drone wants to hit, carried a slab of extra armor that Swedish engineers had bolted on in the mid-1990s. They added it for reasons that had nothing to do with drones, because in 1994 the loitering FPV did not exist as a weapon of war. They were worried about top attack missiles and artillery airburst, and by pure accident, the armor they fitted to stop a threat from the last century turned out to be almost perfectly placed to blunt the defining threat of this one. That is the pattern the whole war would repeat. Over 2 years of the hardest fighting in Europe since 1945, Russian forces landed at least 14 confirmed hits on the 10 tanks Sweden donated, mines, cornets, drones, artillery, and most of those 10 are still in the fight today. Which raises an obvious question. If the tank is that good, if the armor is that strong, why is Sweden spending €1.5 billion to tear the Strv 122 apart and rebuild it into something else entirely? The answer is the whole story, because Ukraine didn't just prove what the Strv 122 got right, it exposed in precise and expensive detail exactly what it got wrong, and Sweden was watching every minute of it. Start with what Sweden already knew it had. The Stridsvagn 122 is not quite a Leopard 2, it's the Swedish reading of one. In the mid-1990s, Sweden took the German Leopard 2A5, itself one of the best protected tanks in the world, and then did something very Swedish to it. They added more. 3 additional sections of composite armor over the glacis, the turret face, and that fateful turret roof. A layer of non-explosive reactive armor. A spall liner inside the crew compartment to catch the lethal shower of fragments that kills tank crews even when the hull holds. Tungsten, ceramic, high-hardness steel. The result was a tank that Ukrainian crews came to rate above almost everything else they were given. One tanker, describing it for Ukrainian army television, said the Swedish machines were, his word, sharpened compared to the baseline Leopard 2A5. Ukrainian reports credited the gun with the first round of hits out to nearly 4 kilometers. The tank could reverse at 30 kilometers an hour. 30! Which sounds like a trivia note until you remember that a Russian T-72 reverses at 4, and that on a modern battlefield, the ability to sprint backwards out of a drone's line of sight is the difference between a repair job and a funeral. So the armor worked, the crews loved it, and none of that saved it from being the thing that actually happened. Because here is what those hits actually tell you when you read them closely. The tank survived, the mission did not. Again and again, the sequence ran the same way. A mine took a track, the machine stopped, and from that moment the crew could do nothing but wait, hoping the roof held while drones circled and the recovery vehicle raced the clock. The armor was buying lives, which matters more than anything. It was not buying ground. And a machine that can only survive has already handed the initiative to a $2,000 drone. Sweden looked at that ledger and drew a hard conclusion. Jonas Lotsna, who runs land systems as Sweden's defense procurement agency, put it plainly. The war had convinced them that tanks would remain the backbone of the Army's brigades for a long time to come. Not a relic, not a museum piece being outdated by quadcopters. The backbone, but only if you fix the parts the armor couldn't compensate for. So Sweden opened up the tank and went looking for its weakest points. And the biggest one was hiding in plain sight at the front of the turret where the gun comes out. Look closely at a Strv 122 and compare it to a Leopard 2A6, and you'll notice the barrels are different lengths. That is not cosmetic. It's the single most important thing about this entire upgrade. The Strv 122, built on the 2A5 generation, carries the shorter L44 gun, a 120mm smoothbore with a barrel 44 calibers long. When the world moved on to the Leopard 2A6 and 2A7, it moved to the L55. A longer barrel, 55 calibers, which pushes a round out faster and hits harder at range. Sweden's tank, for all its magnificent armor, was carrying the previous generation's gun. It was the best-dressed fighter in the room, throwing last year's punch. For decades, that barely mattered, because the L-44 could still kill anything it was likely to meet. But Ukraine changed what a tank gun is actually asked to do. The threats that immobilize the Strv 122 today aren't only enemy tanks at 2 kilometers. They're drone operators in a tree line. They are dismounted infantry with anti-tank missiles. They are the swarm. And against those targets, the thing you want is not just a harder punch, it's a smarter round. This is where the whole upgrade turns, and it's worth being precise about, because this is the reason Sweden decided the Strv 122 was worth rebuilding rather than retiring. The man who runs Sweden's Defense Material Administration, Göran Martinsson, described the rebuilt tank in one line that gives the game away. Compared to the old Strv 122, he said, it is essentially a completely new tank, even though they may appear similar on the outside. Hold on to that. Same silhouette, same hull, engine, and drivetrain, largely untouched, and underneath, almost nothing the same. The centerpiece is a new gun, the 120mm L55A1, longer barrel, higher pressure, and crucially, built to fire programmable ammunition. That last phrase is the entire drone war lesson compressed into an engineering specification. Programmable rounds can be set to airburst at a chosen point in flight, scattering fragments exactly where infantry or a low, slow drone happen to be, instead of relying on a direct hit against the target the size of a dinner plate. It is the difference between a gun designed to punch through another tank's armor and a gun designed to survive the war Ukraine is actually fighting. If that gun sounds familiar, it should. It's the same L55A1 family we looked at when we covered Britain's Challenger 3, the leap the UK made when it finally abandoned its old rifled barrel. 2 European armies looking at the same battlefield, arriving at the same barrel. That's not a coincidence. That's a consensus forming in real time and what a tank now needs. But a smarter gun is useless if you can't see the target before it sees you. And this is the second lesson Sweden pulled out of Ukraine. Go back to the field outside Svitova. What started that kill chain wasn't a drone. It was a mine the crew never saw, and by the time the track was gone, the drones were a formality. On the modern front, spotting the threat first, the disturbed earth, the glint of an operator's antenna, the aircraft on approach in poor light, is worth more than another inch of steel. Steel is what you fall back on when your eyes have already failed. So look at what the rebuild actually adds and read it as a response to that failure. Improved thermal optics for the gunner. A new independent sight for the commander so he can hunt for targets while the gunner services another. A dedicated night sight for the driver so the tank can move in darkness without blundering into the next minefield. New sensor suites covering the front and, notably, the rear, because the threat on this front comes from every direction, including behind. Reinforced tracks so the mine that begins the whole grim sequence no longer ends it. None of this changes the tank's profile. All of it changes what the tank can do at the exact moments the old Strv 122 kept failing. Sweden didn't up-armor its way out of the drone problem. It can't, and it knows it can't, which is why the 21st Mechanized Brigade in Ukraine ended up welding homemade porcupine cages onto their Swedish tanks by hand. They needed frames, one of their tankers said flatly. There is not a single tank in our battalion without them. That is a field improvisation. Sweden's answer is to build the intelligence in at the factory, so the crew sees the drone before it needs the cage. And underneath all of it sits the least glamorous and most important change. Nearly every electronic system in the tank replaced, a new digital command and control backbone, real-time data sharing across the formation. This is the part that doesn't photograph well and wins wars anyway. It's also what makes the rebuilt tank a full member of the NATO Leopard family rather than a talented Swedish cousin, able to plug into Allied networks, share targeting, fight as part of something larger than itself. Now step back and look at the shape of what Sweden actually did. They kept the one thing Ukraine proved was excellent: the hull, the armor, the protection philosophy that let a tank take blow after blow and keep its crews alive. And they replaced everything Ukraine proved was a generation behind: the gun, the eyes, the brain. It's worth pausing on how differently the other side has answered the same battlefield. When a Russian T-90M is penetrated, the ammunition stored in its carousel autoloader down in the hull around the crew has a habit of cooking off all at once. We've covered this before. The turret separates and flies, the jack-in-the-box footage that has become the grim signature of Russian armor losses. Their design breaks the catastrophe in. Sweden's does the opposite at every level. Separated ammunition, blow-off panels, spall liners, all of it pointed at one outcome. When the tank is hit, the people walk away. Ukraine's 14-hit ledger is that philosophy validated in blood and steel. Russia's carousel is the counterexample burning in the same fields. That's the philosophy. Here are the numbers it's being scaled to. Sweden is running two programs at once, and together they're doubling the country's tank capability. The first is the rebuild. 110 existing Strv 122 stripped down and modernized to a new standard, the Stridsvagn 123A, aligned with the latest Leopard 2A8. The second is new build, 44 brand new Leopard 2A8s, which Sweden will designate the Stridsvagn 123B. Add them together and Sweden ends up with 154 modern tanks, enough, in the government's own framing, to help crew a Swedish army doubling in size to 4 mechanized brigades. Defense Minister Paul Johnson summed the order up simply. It gives Sweden 154 modern tanks and refurbished vehicles, and it strengthens the country's defense. The first rebuilt Strv 123 was formally handed over in Munich in June, with the rest of the fleet rolling through the program toward the end of the decade. And there's a quiet piece of accounting folded into it that matters. The new tanks also replaced the 10 Sweden gave away. The country that donated its best armor to Ukraine made sure the gift left no hole in its own line. Think about what that means geographically. Sweden joined NATO carrying the memory of neutrality and a Baltic coastline that now forms part of the alliance's exposed northern flank, a short sail from Kaliningrad and across a narrow sea from the Russian mainland. 154 tanks built to a shared NATO standard, able to fight inside an Allied network, is not a national vanity project. It's a wall going up on the top edge of Europe, and Sweden is building it knowing exactly what that edge now faces, because its own tanks spent 2 years learning the hard way. The KNDS executive who handed Sweden the first rebuilt tank noted that Sweden has been a driving force behind the evolution of the Leopard 2 for nearly 30 years. That's true, and it's easy to hear as a diplomatic pleasantry at a handover ceremony. But it lands differently once you've stood, even in imagination, in that field outside Svatova. Because the evolution he's talking about didn't happen in a boardroom. It happened to real tanks, crewed by Ukrainian soldiers of the 21st Mechanized Brigade, who took a Swedish machine designed for a Nordic war it never fought and drove it into the worst drone battlefield in history. They welded cages onto it by hand. They towed it home and when it should have burned. They handed it, dented and scorched to a president. And every mine that stopped it, every drone that dived on its roof, taught the engineers back home something no proving ground in Sweden ever could. That's the tank Sweden is building now. Same hull that took the beating and held. A gun that can finally fight the war that stopped it. Eyes that can see the mine coming. A brain wired into the whole alliance. The armor Ukraine proved married to the fixes Ukraine forced. The old Strv 122 survived on armor its designers bolted on for the wrong war 30 years too early and got lucky. The tank replacing it won't need luck. It was built by people who read the after-action report, because the report was written on the hull of their own donated tanks. So here's the question worth arguing about in the comments. Sweden looked at its options and chose to rebuild 110 proven survivors and add 44 new ones, 154 tanks, 4 brigades, a northern wall. If the choice were yours and the battlefield were the one Ukraine is actually fighting on, would you rather have 154 upgraded Leopards that have already been shot at, mined, and swarmed and kept their crews alive, or a smaller number of brand new tanks that have never yet been tested by a single drone? Sweden has made its bet, and it made it with the tank that already came home once from a field where it was supposed to die.